now.
Let's do it.
There we go.
It's good, Brandon.
All right, everybody out there watching. Let's talk. So first of all, guys, go around and introduce yourselves. For those either A, watching now, or B, that are going to watch later on, so we know who everybody is.
I'll go first.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, now we're all delayed. Good. Josh Camp. My favorite color is blue. I like walking on the beach. I don't know what else you want to know about me, but I'm currently drinking Starlight's Double Oak limited release, which is delicious.
Todd, go ahead.
Todd Conklin, St. Charles, new member to the society, Patreon member as well, first barrel pick. And I'm currently drinking Knob Creek Old Fashioned with some homemade orange bitters.
Ooh, wonderful! And you guys probably know Brandon and Dan. We've done this quite a few times. Dan is the bald guy, just like me. Gentlemen, I was not able to join you down there for our next barrel pick, which is with Starlight Distillery in Borden, Indiana. We won't go too much into like the specifics of like Starlight as a distillery. Suffice it to say, they are on the cusp, the cutting edge of like barrel finishing and aging and just all this incredible stuff that they are doing. I was not able to make it. I am currently living in South Carolina. I wish, Brandon, believe me, I appreciate the offer to come out there and hang out with you guys. But I just closed on a house last Tuesday, and duty called, and I had to move everything in. So, guys,
congrats.
Tell us about the experience. Josh and Todd, this was your first barrel pick. So those fellow Patreon members out there, we really do send you on barrel picks. Tell us about it. What was it like?
Go for it, Todd.
Oh no, we lost his audio.
Okay, Todd, you figured out their audio.
My bad.
I got this.
There we go. All right, Todd's back.
Sorry about that. Rookie error. So I've been on distillery tours before, but never this much behind the scenes, never really being able to actual taste product out of the barrels directly. Let me just start by saying what an absolute blast and what a really cool experience. I learned more in the 3.5 or so hours that we were there about bourbon than I think I even knew collectively going into the experience. Our hosts were awesome. We tasted some really great and some really unique bourbons. I think we'll probably go through a little bit of them on the call here, but just what a really cool, unique, overwhelmingly beneficial experience it was to be on there.
Yeah. So,
Josh, what about you?
Same thing as Todd. I think it's never been on a barrel pick. Done plenty of your standard general public distillery tours. It's like anybody else. But the experience to, first and foremost, right? Like just specifically to Starlight, like their grounds, their property, their campus, so to speak, or their pseudo town that they have created of Starlight, Indiana, is just mind blowing, right? I mean, like we're driving, and we kind of took a little scenic route, got off the highway a little short of it, and took some of the drive, and you come up, and all of a sudden you go from middle of nowhere to driving through vineyards to all of a sudden it's just buildings and buildings and buildings. It's rick houses and ice cream shops and gift shops, and they've got the whole nine going there. So really a neat place. Got to sit out on the patio, listen to some live music. Just a really cool spot if you're ever in that area. But then to have the knowledge of Christian, who showed us around, who's the Huber that we got to spend our time with, to be able to have somebody with that kind of knowledge really guide you through, hey, let's do a couple tastings, let's gauge your experience, and be able to navigate how we were responding to varying barrels, and chars and toasts and all of that, to then help us navigate into the right area. It was pretty impressive, how well he was able to supply us with tastings, gather feedback from us, and then guide us into the right areas to help us find the right landing spot, because this barrel's pretty amazing.
So even if, for those of you guys watching either now live or watching later, there's some skepticism of sending people to do a barrel pick that maybe don't have the same palate as you, or have never done it before. I try to tell everybody, like, your tastes are pretty much going to align pretty dead on. Ultimately, my understanding is that it came down to 2 barrels. So tell us about all the barrels that you sampled through. But let's focus on the last.
How long
2
is this?
That kind of made. Yeah. So I mean, we'll get to the very last 2 here in a minute. But like, take us through. I mean, I was looking at some of the pictures that Brandon was sending, and that through the story on 312 Suburban Bourbon on his Instagram page. What was it like? I mean, I saw the pictures of like Christian up there, like do like a monkey, just like climbing the rick house walls and just sampling. What did you guys sample through that didn't make the cut, and why didn't it make the cut?
I think there was about 17 of them total, give or take 1 or 3. Some of them were unofficial ones, right? So. But I think one of the most unique things that he did for us is he took the same product, which is 5-year rye, that they aged in 2 different types of barrels. They aged the same product in American oak versus French oak. And for me, that was kind of an eye-opening experience to be able to know that this is the same exact liquor going into these barrels, but it tastes so completely different coming out just based on the barrel itself. And if you ever have an opportunity to do a blind taste or even an unblind taste where you know that it's the same consistent product that's coming out of 2 different types of barrels, just to get that understanding, I think for me that was a huge benefit, and that was just an awesome learning experience.
Brandon, you obviously the Hubers, the whole family. You and your brother went to school with them. So thank you for kind of setting this up. Christian and I had talked about this, kind of briefly on and off, about doing a barrel pick with them. What was it like for you kind of going down there, knowing the family and experiencing this whole thing?
Man, where do I start? Obviously last year, it was a tough year for anybody that has family and friends and things living away. So just getting the opportunity to number one, go back home was awesome. I've been home in a couple of years, and obviously Starlight's kind of exploded over the past year and a half as well. So to get that opportunity to go back up there, I mean, it was funny. I was laughing with a couple like James and the other 2 guys from Starlight. Like, I remember as a kid, like going up there and getting conned into like picking pumpkins for the family, like all this like awful work that sucked. But just like, hey, do you want to come up and pick strawberries or do this, do that? So it was cool to go up there and see a different side that frankly I haven't got an opportunity to see yet. The winery was always there and things like that, but oh gosh, it's just a great experience. And then you have somebody like Christian, who I love when he says that they're geeky about bourbon, man, because that's like to a T what they are. They do what they want to do. They're not trying to be like anybody else. They everything comes pretty much from the farm, and I mean, the guy went to school in Canada specifically for it. So like, what more could you ask? It was a phenomenal experience.
Dan, you have done barrel picks with us before virtually. Both of actually Brandon and Dan have done this one.
Yep.
we did this barrel pick together.
Nice.
This is Dan. This is the first time you've actually gone to a distillery to do a barrel pick with us.
It is, yeah, first time.
So having done them virtually and now having actually gone to the distillery, obviously it's better going to the distillery to do it.
Yeah, I mean, nothing against the virtual pick. You did an excellent job running that for Whiskey Acres, and a lot of fun. But when you get to do the tour and then walk into the rick house and you get the aroma and the sights, and you have Christian he wasn't picking off a script. Like he just said,
Yeah.
I'm gonna try this. So he shimmies up, 3 layers of barrels to pull this down for us, and it was just basically him interacting with us to say, oh, you like this one, let's try that one. Oh, you didn't care for that one, let's go do this one. And it was just it's just a more interactive experience. We got to try like whatever we felt like. We could have kept going. I really believe that. But when we landed on this one, I mean, there was no real reason to continue. I didn't think. But yeah, it was really cool to be there. And for the people that have done the Patreon, it'll happen for you, and you should be happy and excited to be able to do that. I'm fortunate to live down here, so it was like a 25-minute drive. But the other guys, they had to haul from Chicago, and I think they would agree with me. It was well worth it.
Absolutely. So for the people out there in the Fox Valley Whiskey Society that are watching, the Patreon members that are following, Josh and Todd, you guys are Patreon members.
Yep.
Yes, we do send you guys. Now we don't pay for it. You guys obviously had to get down there on your own. But this is an experience that you guys, got to experience. Honestly, it was really because of Brandon. Brandon kind of set this whole thing up and, got the correspondence going between us. And we're really excited to finally land this barrel. Let's not tippy toe around the subject anymore. You guys finalized kind of 2 barrels. Talk about the barrel in second place, and then let's get to the barrel that won. Talk about the barrel that came in second place and why you didn't choose it versus the one that you did. And what
before we get into any of the details, I just want to give a quick idea or quick picture of how this all worked out. We're sampling all these barrels. Christian's climbing all over the distillery, and he's like, oh, we should. He was totally he's just loving it, and we're kind of narrowing it down, and then they take us back to their kind of their boardroom or their meeting room or barrel pick room, whatever you want to call it, and we ate some pizza, and I was all right, thinking in my head how should we do this so there's no kind of eliminates the bias aspect of it. So I just said, I had everybody said, give me your top 3, your top 3, because we had all of them numbered out or whatever, and mostly some of the details written down, and we all wrote them down on our paper, and I collected them, and it was literally a 50-50 split tie on these 2 barrels.
Okay.
So
what was we'll talk about the one that you guys chose here in just a minute. I know what the final 2 were. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about the one the one that didn't get chosen. What was that barrel, and why did it just barely get edged out?
I think I'll speak for myself. When the barrel that lost, the runner-up, right? When I taste that bottle, and a couple of us had this conversation, it was that's fun, right? That it had a great profile. It was unique, but it was super approachable, right? I mean, it kind of checks all the boxes, right? Anybody could drink it, but your most sophisticated bourbon drinker could find a lot of value in it. I mean, I think it had a lot to the table, and for me, it kind of sounded like, after this, we then tried the barrel that won, and it kind of sounded like maybe we didn't have access to the one that we ended up being able to gain access to. So it's kind of like, this could be the winner, but man, if we could have that other barrel, that would be super cool.
So the second place barrel, it was a bourbon that was I don't know what the age of it was, but I know that it was finished in Sauterne. It was finished in a Sauterne barrel. Yep. What was go? Let's talk about the details of the barrel that lost, that came in second place.
So it was it was a French dessert wine, which is a Sauterne barrel that the bourbon was aged in for a couple months. I think it was actually probably close to finishing. I think it was probably in there for about 3 months when we tasted it. And the interesting thing was, I've got that down on my list here, that was about our 9th bourbon that we tasted. And it was really interesting because up until that point, everybody was kind of comparing notes on what they liked and what they didn't like. And There was a group of folks that liked taste like 1 and 3, and others that liked taste 2 and 4. This was the first one that everybody was like looking around at each other and saying, yeah, this is really good. And this is the runner-up, right? So this is the one that I think everybody was kind of in agreement that we all like this. This kind of has mass appeal. This has really good flavor, really good depth, and a little on the sweet side, a little on the dry side, a little on the, it was just really, really well balanced. And I think that it was kind of hitting the mark for all of us. And then, like Josh said, we move on to the next one. And I think we moved on to the next one because Christian saw how much we liked this one. And he said, if you like this, then you're really going to like this next one. So he really did a great job of guiding through what we were kind of hitting on and where we were kind of going taste-wise. So then we moved into the second one.
So the first place loser was a Sauterne barrel, a French dessert wine. That one just barely was edged out. So with, I guess, let's talk about the winner, guys. Todd, go into detail. Tell us about the winner. What was it finished in? What's the age? Give us the flavor profile. I want to hear from all of you guys on this one because this is really what people are going to be excited about with Starlight. What did we pick? Todd, go ahead.
Oh, thanks for giving me the honor of announcing it. Right, so. What is going to be on the bottle is that it is a Starlight bourbon that is a Napa Cabernet Sauvignon finished. And that Napa Sauvignon, Cabernet Sauvignon is actually a silver oak. So it is a silver oak barrel of Napa Cab that this bourbon is finished in. And I think that it was probably around the 4-year mark when it went into the barrel. The interesting thing is, and what's really exciting about this one is we tasted it after it's only been in the silver oak barrel for about 3 weeks. So it's only really starting to pull in those flavors. Christian went into a lot of great detail as the rick house warms up and what's going to happen to that barrel as it heats up and how that wine and tannins from the wine aging is going to be pulled into the barrel and into the bourbon. And ultimately, once it reaches a taste that he likes, which is probably going to be around the end of June, he's going to pull it back into another room and cold shock it, which brings the barrel back into a kind of a constricting state. It pulls the tannins back out of the bourbon, and then you're left with a very rich Cabernet type infused bourbon. So I'm really excited that it's going to develop even more flavor than what we got to try when we were down there this past Saturday.
Josh, so we had talked about, so what makes this interesting and I'll kind of speak for the Fox Valley Whiskey Society here. We've always tried to offer you guys barrel picks that are super unique, one of a kind, things that you can't get on the shelf anywhere else. With our Boot Hill pick, we did the very first of its kind, an unmalted barley whiskey. The TTB was even like, we don't even have anything like this. You literally have the first kind. Glass Gem, is another example. No distillery has bottled and sold a bourbon that is the primary grain is Glass Gem corn. This one in particular from Starlight, this is the first barrel that they have released to whether it be a store, a club, a restaurant that is finished in Cabernet barrels. Josh, I'm going to get to Dan and Brandon because I want to hear all of your tasting notes on it. Why did this one edge out the other barrel?
Yeah, so it's funny to kind of what you said, right? We've talked a bit about how Christian Hubert took great care of us, and this kid, and I say kid because he's 25, and this kid is he's as impressive as I just kept asking him questions. I had to apologize to the group for the number of questions I was asking because I could listen to this kid talk, right? He's his life experience, all specific to bourbon, wine, barrels, wood, the whole nine, was impressive. And this distillery, like none other I've ever seen, has an R&D department, right? And he is the R&D of this place. And to know that this is one of his experiment babies that he introduced us to was really cool. The other thing that I'll say about it, just the uniqueness of the flavor, and it's tough, right? Because let's be fair, Todd just hit all the notes, man. I mean, that's he pegged it. But to have a bourbon that can present you all, I like rise, I like spice, I like complexity and depth. When you go to a distillery on a tour and they go, here's the bourbon that we introduced. I remember I was at Willet last year and they're like, here's the bourbon, they're pure Kentucky. Here's what we use to introduce non-bourbon drinkers to bourbon. I'm like, that's great. I love that you have that offering to build the culture and community, but I'm good. Hard pass. Like, I'm not looking to rehydrate after a jog. I mean, clearly I don't jog, but it's right. But it's like, I love the depth and complexity, and it had all of that. While at the same time, I can introduce this to my wife, who's slowly going, oh, let me try one or two of those. Who's truly a wine drinker. Annual Napa trip. I know that this is something that she'll go. If I introduce it to her, she'll go, okay, I can appreciate that. I can start to peg a little easier to some of those not so super palates, be able to pull some flavors out of it. And then, just full disclosure, the fact that I told her it's a silver oak, bro, she went, oh, I want to try that. Like, hey, bourbon drinkers, you got a significant other who's a wine drinker, a friend who's a wine drinker. If they're true wine drinkers, you tell them silver oak, they're going to go, oh, okay, they're going to pique their interest a little bit. And that's, for me, that's the fun part about it, right? Like, take the name away, it's an amazing barrel. But all of a sudden, you've got, to me, I think my wife might try this. That's pretty cool.
So I want to take a moment real quick. Thank everybody who's watching. I got my phone right next to me here. The comments, I think you guys can see the comments. I want to thank everybody for watching. I know my buddy Wilson from Union Horse Distilling. I don't know if he's still watching. He was watching earlier. Wilson, thank you. He tunes in like all the time. He's so awesome. Cool. Union Horse, Wilson, I'm going to get in touch with you here pretty soon to schedule something for 2022. I'm going to get that barrel proof rye. We're going to do a barrel pick of that one. My buddy Kendall is watching. I think he's still watching. Kendall, if you're still watching, please comment. Kendall is a good buddy of mine. I went to high school with him. He actually either works or worked at 18th Street Brewery Distillery in Indiana, which is who Niche just recently did two picks with. And I was talking to Kendall about possibly doing something with them, so we're going to do something with that later on. Nick Reimer. Nick is our good friend. He's kind of quickly made his way into the Fox Valley Whiskey Society. He asked, Silver Oak Winery is fantastic too. Curious on the barrel from the winery. Are they first fill? Do we know? Are they first fill? Has anything else been in this barrel other than it's just been the Cabernet?
Yep.
Perfect.
And then
wonderful.
Christian right after we kind of selected. He was like, I just want to let you guys know that I definitely want to do something else with this barrel after the fact. So he's pretty excited about it, man. That was out of all of his excitement and jumping around the rick house and whatnot. You could tell when he started talking about this one that it was special to him. And then, of course, when we heard that it was kind of already quote unquote taken, I was like, oh, we're gonna take this one for sure.
So normally when we do barrel picks, we get the barrel afterwards. They'll ship it along with they'll ship it on a pallet. It'll show up at Oak and Swine on a pallet, with the cases of in the box of 6, along with the barrel. For those of you who don't know, I will give you guys a little bit of a tidbit right now. Brandon and Dan, I don't think you guys even know this. The barrel that this was aged in has gone to a mead honey wine in Dwight, Illinois. They are going to be aging a Blossom Honey mead for about a year in this barrel right here. So that will be available to the Fox Valley Whiskey Society next year. If you guys want some really cool cocktails, Oak and Swine is going to be working on a barrel-aged cocktail from our Boot Hill barrels. I really want to do something with this barrel, though, guys, from Starlight. I mean, Cabernet finish, beautiful bourbon. I'm thinking cigar wrappers, maybe? Maybe we age some cigar tobacco in there. So we'll see what happens with that one. Dan, I want to get to you. What are your tasting notes on this one? Give everybody kind of the rundown as what we're going to expect with this.
Sure. So full disclosure on this, the runner-up was actually my favorite over this one, but it was still within my top 3. So, and Mike, when you gave us a call when you were there, I was pretty clear on my opinion of cab finished bourbons.
You were, yeah.
I think it was I hate them.
I see Todd right there. Todd's got his bottle.
Yep.
Yes, I do.
I've sampled 3 or 4. I have a bottle of the Jefferson's cab finish, and I just hate it. I hate it so much. This one,
Jefferson's.
Oh, I'm learning my lesson. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this one, it was incredibly rich. It didn't have that overpowering cab finish to it yet. It might still get pulling more of that as it ages a little more in there. But it was just such an approachable bourbon. It's going to be perfect for people that want to pull the different flavors out of it, but also people that want to kind of be introduced to it as well. It's very smooth, very creamy, a little bit of sweetness for me. But yeah, it was a fantastic pick. And even though wasn't my first choice, very, very happy for this pick. It's going to be something that we can really hang our hat on as the Whiskey Society. And yeah, and I'm hoping, maybe down the road we can do the Sauternes, as one of the next ones, because that was when I tried that one. I think I forget it.
Bring it in.
Yeah, it might have been Josh. I was like, this is it. I think that's what I said when I tried that. But this one we ended up winning is right there with it. So very, very happy, looking forward to it.
Brandon, you have been very, very vocal in our group chat between you, Dan, and I about how excellent this bourbon is. Give us your notes on it. Why? So we're going to get probably about 130 to maybe 140 bottles out of this one. So just a little bit more than what we got out of the Whiskey Acres. Tell us about. I mean, what was your experience with this bourbon? Why this one over all the other ones?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, I don't think there's the bourbon number 2 that we tried, or I think that one was a rye. It had probably the only nose out of the 15 or so that we tried that I didn't really care for. I thought every one of the bourbons and or ryes that we tried on the nose were just, I mean, money. This one I think like when I look back at my notes, it had a little bit of sweetness, sweetness on the nose. I'm kind of curious to see if the nose changes a little bit as it sits in that barrel, for a little while longer. But sweetness on the nose, great color to it. When I look at my notes here, on the palate, I thought like Dan was saying, it had a touch of sweetness to it. It was, basically sat on the tongue. The finish was medium body. Like it didn't burn. It wasn't peppery. Like we're all saying, like it's one of those. It's just so approachable, and it has some depth to it. Like it doesn't, you don't swallow and it's gone. It kind of lingers, for 10 or 15 seconds, but it doesn't burn you up. I mean, it's just one of those. It's like, wow, And I agree, Dan. Like that Sauternes was a phenomenal bourbon too. I mean, part of me says, Mike, like I just want to say, like let's call him and pull Whiskey Acres. But I don't know. Maybe we'll see if this one goes quick. But I saw Bourbon Lens. They just did a Starlight Barrel Pick, and they did a Sauternes finish. So to be honest, I don't know that I've tried a cab finished bourbon, which I started thinking about that
either. Actually,
yeah. I started thinking about that after the fact. I'm like, man, I don't know that I've tried that. And I was like, it was just like Dan said, for me, either one of those, the last two, I could have said, okay, this is it. I think for the last one, the one that we selected, I feel like it's one of those that I can't remember if it was Josh. I think Todd said this. He was like, Todd said this. It was like one of those where you could be a new to bourbon. You could be, relatively like a pretty in-depth palate to bourbon, or you could be somebody that's, been drinking bourbon for 20 years. And I really feel like you're going to drink this and, and think, okay, I don't have to be an expert, or I could be brand new to bourbon and still love this bottle. I think it's going to surprise a lot of people.
Yeah.
I'll send you a sample of the cab.
Jason, I just real quick. Real quick. So Jason Lee asked, I think he just joined in. So we'll kind of backtrack to this one. Jason asks, Sauterne versus cab. Ultimately, what was the final factor that drove the decision to go with the cab finish versus the Sauterne? I mean, what was that final decision there? What was going on? Like kind of torn between the two.
I think wasn't the Sauterne finish was rye, wasn't it? It was a rye finish. No, yeah. So I think
the Sauterne was a bourbon. I think when we were talking about it, right? I mean, I think one of the first things was, Sauterne. Not a lot of people, unless you're a wine snob, really know. Unless you're really not going to know what like a Sauterne is. So there would be a little bit of Googling going on to see what is a Sauterne wine. But I mean, it's a French oak. It's a French dessert wine, so it had a little bit more sweetness to it. I think that the Napa Cab, the silver oak that we picked, muted the sweetness, right? I mean, there was still some, like you said, sweetness on the aroma, on the palate, but it wasn't as sweet as the Sauterne. I think that it just had a little bit more mass appeal that I think we all kind of agreed upon.
Yeah, I think there's also.
So let's see. Jim is watching. So Jim is our wine guy. So Jim is our wine guy. Jim Brennan. He just commented replying to Nick Reimer. I'm not big into wine at all. I don't know, Todd. It sounds like you might be into wine, maybe a little. Probably all of you might be into wine more than I am. Maybe Jim can actually answer this in the comments, or Todd, maybe you can answer it. Cabernet versus Sauterne. I mean, what are we for those of us who don't know wine? What can we expect maybe in the finished bourbon from Sauterne versus Cabernet?
So, just trying to make sure I'm not muted. So like we were just commenting, I think Brandon was just saying, we haven't really heard of a Cabernet Sauvignon finished bourbon before. There's a lot of port finished. There's a lot of sherry finished, which are a little bit stronger. They're a little bit sweeter. And I think the Sauterne kind of falls into that category. I think there's a lot of similar elements to a sherry finished or a port finished when you're talking about the Sauterne. The Cabernet Sauvignon is obviously it's a red grape. It's a red wine. It's a dry wine. It's not sweet. So it's pulling out different notes out of that barrel than any of the others that we're familiar with, whether it be the sherry, the port, or the Sauterne. So I think there was a uniqueness to it. And the fact that it's a dry red as opposed to a sweet dessert type wine, there's a big difference in what that taste is going to bring to the final product.
Absolutely.
So ultimately what it came down to was it the finish? Was it just how it sat on the palate? What was kind of, was one bolder? Was one a little bit lighter? I think we've gotten to the point of like what people can expect.
Right.
We've got quite a few people watching right now, I think, that are kind of just now tuning in. Sauterne, maybe, the Sauterne finish that we passed up so that we could go with the Cabernet finish. Seems like it was maybe a little bit sweeter. Maybe it's a little bit more like dessert-like. Was the finish better on one than on the other? Was it the palate that was better on one than on the other?
Yeah.
Let's talk about a little bit.
So I found that with the silver oak that we went with, this cab finish, And we drink a good amount of wine, right? Dessert wine is great. Dessert wine kind of has its place, right? So you definitely get a little more sweetness from it. You're going to get all those sugars that are coming from that grape because they're more concentrated. That's where these dessert wines come from. But the cab, I mean, just to give you an idea about like cab, right? Like cab is where you go. Cab is very, very versatile, right? So first of all, in the land of wine, cab can be kind of your entry level into red wine, right? You can have medium body, but you also like, for those that really love that big, robust body of a red wine, the cab does that for you as well. I mean, that's our go-to for, like I said, for new red wine drinkers and for, hey, I'm really looking for a big, bold, big body, right? So it matches that kind of robust, depth of flavor really matches and pairs really well, in my opinion. Just what finishes in the mouth of pairing it with the bourbon. Same thing. You match two things that have similar depths of flavor, and they just happen to pair very well. And if I'm being really honest, the idea to be able to get in on something that was the one. There's no more barrels of it. It's no one else is coming behind us and tagging another barrel. Like that's it. We got it. Now there's no more. And there's something cool and unique to be able to offer a great bottle offering to the group, while at the same time going, not only is it going to taste great, but we may never see it again.
Yeah.
Sure. So I know for me, I marked myself down for three bottles. I'm probably going to up that. I know Brandon, you're going to be sending me a sample. So full disclosure, I haven't even sampled it yet. I trust the palate of you four. In addition with Christian and James down there. So I want to talk about, because this is something that kind of came up in conversation. I want to talk about the Binny's aspect for this barrel. Brandon, go through. Talk us. This is not a situation where, like with Crazy Nas, where we just stole it straight out from them. This is not that situation at all. We didn't steal anything from anybody. Brandon, talk to us about the Binny's correlation with this barrel.
Yeah, so we get down, like we get down to that, so it turns, and Christian's like, all right, let me just show you guys one more, and then he drops that. It's a silver oak, it's a silver oak cab finish. But I mean, he was like, I gotta be honest, like Binny's is pretty much already said, like kind of already claimed it. So like, obviously, silver oak, ears perk up. Binny's has already claimed it, ears perk up again. I'm like, oh, this is okay. So I've had several of Binny's Starlight, whether it's the rye or the their bourbon picks, and they're always great. So I was like, okay, if Binny's is already kind of quote unquote claiming this, like this is probably going to be something that we should. And I don't even. Obviously, they hadn't even tried it yet, so it was like one of those where they had the same mindset, right? Like we're going to be the only ones that have something like this, and so like part of me is getting excited, part of me is like, man, I don't know, like if I can pull the come on, Christian, like I'm the hometown kid, like hook us up here, whatever. I can pull that card, and so I was like, I don't want to get my hopes up, and then we all try it, and we're like, wow, that's really good. So I keep kind of poking the bear a little bit with Christian, and I don't know. I think like we're sitting around the table at the end. We had all put our votes in. I collected them, and we come down to the winner, and it's like I said, it was a 50-50 split, and we're talking through it, and I basically asked Christian, I'm like, all right, like obviously, like we like this barrel, but in reality, is this even an option? He goes, yeah, I could probably make it happen. So I was like, okay, sounds like a plan. As soon as he slapped that,
We didn't
like,
steal this barrel. This wasn't something that was like a situation where like Binny's claimed it, and then we were just like, too fucking bad, we're gonna scoop it up. This was like Christian was like, hey Brett, do you want it? And Brett was like, no, it's all right. So Binny's wanted it, but at the end of the day they were like, whatever. Yeah, they'll get another one.
Well,
So
I don't
Jason,
know that they know yet.
Jason Lee, no, we did not steal it, but they did want it, and that counts for something.
Yeah. Maybe
Dan,
like
what was your
taking some heat right now?
Yeah,
because I don't know that they.
I'm sure he's probably on the, he's going to be on the phone later. Like, what the fuck happened to that barrel?
Yeah. I was gonna say I think Christian, or I think Brett was like, oh yeah, like it's the Silver Oak, like yeah, we'll definitely come down there and try it, or definitely send some samples. And I'm wondering if Christian called and was like, well, sorry, bro. I hope he did.
Yeah, well, I'm super excited for it. I'm really excited to get the samples of it. I don't think we need to do like another live situation where I go through the sample. I just don't think it's particularly necessary. I trust your guys' opinion on it. I'm really, really super excited for this one. Hold on, I've got some private chat. It's from Josh. So I'm super, super excited for this one. We don't know the price on this just yet. We're going to assume that it's going to be right around that $65 to $75 mark. Because this is a Cabernet finish, because this is something that Starlight has not released to market yet. My understanding in our email conversation with James from Starlight, that it was kind of an experimental thing, which is exactly what we wanted. We sent that little one sheet. We were Brandon and Dan and I were on the as well as Dan Greisen and Steven were on the email chain from the beginning, and we sent them a one sheet. We said we want unique, we want back of the warehouse, we just want that stuff that maybe you experimented with, and they delivered. And we got a really, really stellar barrel pick out of it. I'm gonna go ahead and just kind of say that it's more likely going to be around that $75 mark per bottle, and that includes tax. It's going to be available for pickup at Oak and Swine in Batavia, just as all of our barrel picks will be, except for the Remus barrel, which is going to be available for pickup at Hammers in downtown Geneva in September. We have got a lot more planned for this year and next year, 2022. For those Patreon members that are watching, for the Facebook members that are watching, Todd and Josh can attest. I mean, we send you guys on barrel picks. So it's definitely, I can't remember what you guys subscribe at, but I hope it's worth the money. You guys get a discount on the bottle at least, so that's pretty cool. And we sent you guys to actually pick the barrel, so that's got to count for something, right? Later on this year, guys, we're going to end it here pretty soon. If you 1, 2, 3, 4 want to stay on and hang out for a few more minutes, I'm in South Carolina now. I don't get to do this very often, so. For everybody that was watching tonight, I want to thank you guys from the bottom of my heart. I love doing this. I hope to do this more. Nick, I did get your message. I will text you here in a minute. Later on this year, we have confirmed with Tattersall. Those people that will be on that pick have already been messaged. That pick is going to be sampled in October and be ready in January. We're also hoping to do a maple syrup cask finish barrel pick with Whiskey Acres. Nick hasn't necessarily confirmed anything yet, but we're hoping to get that going next year or later on this year. Next year is going to be super, super crazy for us because Oak and Swine wants to partner with us for everything. So we're talking Jack Daniels, Old Forester, Elijah Craig. We're talking going to these distilleries and doing these things. So all of our Patreon members that are watching right now, you have all been picked for where you are going to be going and what you will be sampling. I will let you guys know shortly. We will start the round over again because everybody has already been picked through and assigned to where they're going to be going. Josh and Todd, you guys will be, I guess for lack of a better term, recycled, and we'll start over with you guys as well. So you guys are probably going to be on at least 2 picks next year as well. If you guys, I don't know if you guys have anything else before we go. I appreciate Todd and Josh, joining us for the Starlight pick. Dan and Brandon, as always, I appreciate you guys joining us.
Yeah.
if you guys want to have any, Todd, if you have any closing comments before we log off here and let everybody decide how many bottles of this barrel pick they want to buy.
I don't know as far as the closing, other than like we didn't walk through all of the great product that we tasted while we were down there. I think that the entire experience was phenomenal from start to finish, right? The Starlight Distillery, the Huber family, the winery that they've got, like Josh said, the farmers market, the dairy, the ice cream stand and everything was a really cool experience. One of the most memorable that we didn't pick was the last barrel, which was actually, there was two of them, right? One of them was a Glendronic barrel that had originally started off as a Jim Beam barrel years and years and years ago, went across the pond to Scotland, aged a 21-year-old Glendronic Scotch in it, and then came back, and that's what they're aging a bourbon in. One of the other ones was a Brazilian wood that actually tastes and smelled like a cigar. That one was that one was not available. That one he whipped out at the very end and said, "Hey, you guys have got to taste this, but this is not available." It was one of the coolest, most unique bourbons. Actually, one of the most unique liquors ever that I've ever smelled and tasted, which was really cool. So I think just going with Starlight, if we have an opportunity to go back there, I would say go for it, because you're not going to lose on anything there.
We will. Well, yeah, we will. We'll do another one next year.
Yep.
Josh, what about you? Anything before we log off? No, yeah, making me jealous all over again.
Yeah. Hey, Mike, man, Brandon, you guys, I'll speak for myself, and I'm sure Todd agrees, man. Thank you. This was a cool experience, man. I'm looking forward to the future.
Yes.
Definitely. Dan, Brandon, anything before we end the broadcast and just kind of chat amongst ourselves?
So I don't know how hot Starlight is up in Illinois. I have yet to get back up there since I moved down here. Everywhere down here is a Starlight pick. Across the board, they are on fire down here. If people are really thinking yay or nay on this one, I would highly recommend it. I have not had a bad bourbon from them yet. And like I said, someone up there out to tell me how hot they are up there, but they are on fire down here.
Yeah, I mean, I think,
Yeah, this one, I don't recommend waiting on this one, guys. This is going to be a quick sell.
Yeah,
Brandon, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I mean, to close it out, like, first and foremost, like, the group of guys that we had there was awesome. Like Josh and Todd, I had so much fun meeting you guys. Like Dan, great time meeting you all. I just it was great to get back home. Get a little hometown pick, which was great. And I mean, I think we picked a good one, and I think I'm super excited to hear as we get these bottles out to the group. I cannot wait to hear everybody's thoughts on it. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, I'm really excited. So before we end broadcast, guys, we're going to shoot for probably like the $75 mark, because this is an experimental barrel through Starlight. It's going to be a little bit more expensive. Obviously, it's a craft distillery, which automatically makes it more expensive. But because it's super unique, it's something that Starlight was experimenting with. We're going to have about 130 to 140 bottles available. This is going to go really, really, really quick, you guys. We're probably going to put this one on sale, I would say, within the next 7 days. We're looking at bottling probably maybe 8 to 10 weeks from now, or at least for pickup from Oak and Swine. So this one's going to go pretty quick. Once I open sales for this one, don't think about it. Just pull the trigger, because if we have another situation like with the Glass Gem where people just kind of hesitated, you guys are going to be real ornery about this one, that you waited longer than you did. So I think you four can attest that don't wait. Don't sit on this one. If you want it, just get it. So we'll open up sales for this one, obviously, to the Patreon members first so that they can get their discounts on the bottles. And then within the next 7 days or so, we will open up sales for the rest of the Fox Valley Whiskey Society to buy as many as they want. We won't know officially how many bottles we have probably for another 8 weeks. So it's going to be the same situation where if we sell more bottles than we actually get, the very, very last people to buy a bottle. And I want you guys, I'm going to go on record right now saying, if we sell more bottles than we actually get, the very last people to reserve their bottle are going to be refunded and you're SOL. I'm sorry, but that's just the way it works. If we sell 130 bottles and we only receive 120, the last 10 bottles that were sold, those people are going to get refunded. You should have been sooner to the party. I'm sorry, but I can't make more bottles appear out of nothing. So if you are even thinking about it, if you're hesitant on it, just pull the trigger. Don't wait 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, a day. Nick Reimer, you're watching. You can attest to this because you missed out because you didn't pull the trigger fast enough. Pull the trigger.
However,
buy it.
However,
guys, thank you for joining us. Everybody who was watching, thank you. You four hang out for a couple more minutes. Everybody who watched tonight, thank you. We'll put bottles on sale within the next week or so. Proof. What is the proof? What's the proof on this? Do we know?
112, I believe, right now.
Yeah, it was between 108 and 112 was what he was estimating the final. I think between 108 and 112 was what the final was going to be.
Okay, so it's above 100 proof.
Yep.
Correct.
And
Yeah,
it'll fluctuate probably by the time we get to bottling and when they mix the barrel up and perfect. So everybody, I will we'll stay on. Don't log off or anything. I'm just going to end broadcast. Hang out for a couple more minutes. Everybody, thank you. I will put bottles on sale. What is today? Tuesday. I'm going to shoot for Monday. I'll put bottles on sale. Cheers, everybody. You guys hang out.
Cheers.
Cheers.